The Flavors of Africa and Diaspora is here as we lead up to the November Gala, fashion show, and food competition. The 8-week event and movement centers around African food and culture to build bridges and bring people together from all different walks of life, from the LGBT plus community to the AAPI communities, and many, many more and beyond. And what better way to do that than with food? But don't take my word for it. Here are some highlights so you can see for yourself.
Zamina mina, waka waka, zamina mina zakalewa.
When we started this, Micah and I, as crazy as the idea may sound, as even call it silly, it was just about really having us getting each other to ask ourselves the fundamental question of life. We're humans. At the end of the day, we're humans. Why are we focusing so much on what divides us versus what actually unites us as human beings? It's all about love. Who doesn't like love? Who doesn't want to be loved? The reason why I'm here today and that I never forgotten was the way he hugged me the first time. People remember the way you make them feel. People remember the way you change their life by that smile, that hug.
My concept in its entirety is called House of Bridges. And when it comes to LGBTQ and the Black community, there is, I don't think, a better grouping of people. We as LGBTQ owe so much to Black folks, both in terms of our culture, but also in pioneering the rights that we have. Without Marsha P. Johnson, I wouldn't be here today. When it comes to innovating the restaurant industry as a whole, you can look at some of the things that exist in restaurant scenes being relics of much more prejudiced times. The server wage is still $2.33, and that was an excuse to pay Black women less. It's still weird that we have to have an earnest conversation about what my sweat, blood, and tears cost. Because I have never known anybody to work harder than chefs or servers or hosts or busters or dishwashers. And the notion that somebody can be sitting around day trading while we're in the trenches simply trying to serve food to make people happy is a gross misrepresentation of what I think most of our values are.
One of the important things for us is truly just having a conversation, and one of the more important conversations for me personally, particularly as co-chair of Pride United, is making sure that we have an understanding of what our LGBTQ colleagues, friends, and neighbors are going through, and how we can best support them. Within the LGBTQ population, actually Ellen and I talked about this at the beginning when this all started. Across the globe, our family members are ultimately in danger. And even here in the States, 1 in 4 LGBTQ people are experiencing homelessness or have experienced homelessness in their life. So what challenges do LGBTQ chefs and food entrepreneurs face in the culinary industry?
I think that being somebody who is a little more femme-leaning and often not fitting in, often not being accepted, not being able to really express yourself or collaborate, having things gate-kept from you because you're not necessarily a part of that good old boys club, and perhaps most importantly, not always being taken seriously as a result of your identity. I think that's personally for me what's been most challenging.
Wow! Good afternoon, Milwaukee! Bienvenidos a todos. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's give it up for our Hispanic Heritage. As I mentioned, I'm going to visit Milwaukee. My name is Tony Snell Rodriguez, and my pronouns are he and him. I'm a proud member of the LGBTQ community, the Hispanic community. My husband is Chinese American, and that's the beauty of all of this. It's the intersectionality. It's the commonality of coming together, the conversations, the food really connects us to our roots and to each other.
My name is Derek Mosley. I'm the director of Marquette Law School's Blue Art Center. And I am happy to be here. I'm happy to see everybody here. And the reason why I bring up the fact, the reason that I bring up the fact about the Lubar Center is, as we were talking, everybody was talking about how we have to bring people together and do things that bring people together. And that's our goal at the Lubar Center. If you haven't heard about what we do a number of things to educate the community. But one of the things we do is called our Ethnic Heritage Dinners. And basically the way it works is during Ethnic Heritage Month, our next one is coming up on October 6th, and it's for Hispanic Heritage Month. Which we are currently in. I bring in chefs of the varying cultures to come in to prepare dishes and to tell a little history about why the dish is important to their culture. We also bring in entertainment as well. Our motto is meet someone, learn something, try everything. Our next one is coming up on November 18th for Native Heritage Month. I have all 3 chefs from the Top Chef Wisconsin. Native chefs. Hopefully we see you there. It's a pleasure to be here.
We host events that help feature food, business-owned, Asian-owned businesses in Milwaukee. People are doing great things in the community in Milwaukee, and just making sure they're a voice at the table in all spaces.
You talked about maybe a personal story where food had been the center of connecting with someone of maybe a different personal background or cultural background of yours and how that brought you together.
Sure. I mean, food is the great connector of all cultures and all people, right? There's threads of ingredients that different cultures use that kind of bind us together, and it helps, we always talk about like breaking bread helps you build bridges with people. So if you share a meal with somebody in my culture, in Asian culture, feeding people is how you show love, right? You want to make sure people are well fed, and that's how you kind of express your care for one another. So I think early on, I learned that, just feeding people is how you connect with them. But when I was really young, actually the first time that I was in another family's kitchen, right? It was a Puerto Rican family. My brother at the time was married to a Puerto Rican woman, and I went in their kitchen, in their pantry, I'm like, my mom uses that. Oh my gosh, we have that in my kitchen too. And there was all these commonalities I never knew existed before, that we have so many things in common, more in common than we have different. It's just part of those realizations that help build more things that you want to learn about each other and want to know what else you have in common, And yeah, we all use sriracha. Oh my gosh, we have that too. And it just goes from there. So that's kind of where it started for me.
So we don't know a lot about our history. Now, how it ties to food is this. I went on this journey to learn more about my history, and I learned so much about our history that people may or may not be aware of. The first one is the fact that when Thomas Jefferson, he wasn't president, he was sort of the first ambassador to France. So he went to France, but when he went to France, he brought an enslaved man with him by the name of James Hemings. Yeah. James Hemings was Sally Hemings' younger brother. And he took him with him, but when he went to France, slavery was already abolished. So he either had to pay James or he had to free James. So he decided he was going to pay him because he wasn't going to free him. And so James took that money and he enrolled himself into a French cooking school. And while he went to that French person to graduate from a French cooking school. And when he came back to the United States and Thomas Jefferson became president, he introduced a number of dishes to the American palate that we had never eaten before. One of which is what he referred to as macaroni pie, but we know it as macaroni cheese. And the other 2 are meringue and French fries.
Wow!
Yeah!
So I always like to think, so when you say bring it back to food, that's my journey. My history journey brought me to this food history. So I like to think of James Hemings as America's founding foodie. I came out here to learn something, so thank you for sharing that. I lived here when people didn't feel welcome going to certain restaurants, right? And so tell your friends, because I don't want to go back to that place where you didn't have options of places to eat. And you didn't have different cuisines that you could eat. So please, get to your friends. Tell them that they need to get out. Take them to places they don't think they would ever go to. Everybody thinks that we're so small that we can't make a difference, but to the world we're just one person, but to one person we can be the world.
What's our takeaway? how do we lead this and make sure that we have tactical actions, tactical things that we can do to not only support the restaurant, support our community, but also each other as we go into these conversations and future events.
It's getting to know the people who make the food, right? Not just eating the food, not going to the restaurants, but get to know the people who are making that food, know their story. I was thinking about all these questions, and thank you for sharing them, is about how we perceive cultural foods and ethnic foods, right? We always approach them as like cheap eats. You know, we think about, getting a taco for $1 or going somewhere on a food truck and getting cheap eats. It's not cheap food. It's not unvaluable food, right? Food like this takes a lot of time and a lot of love to create. I think about a bowl of pho. If you've tried pho, get me a soup. Love it. It could take hours to days to make that broth, right? And you're getting it for like $5 to $10 a bowl. That does not reflect the value of that bowl that you're getting.
Right.
So really putting more value on the ethnic foods in our community and seeing what they're truly worth, and not necessarily trying to appropriate those dishes, elevate them, if you will. Not every ethnic food needs to be elevated; they need to be celebrated for what they are.
Yes.
And something has happened this last year that I've never had happen before. Major companies that I've had contracts with to give those types of speeches have backed out of their diversity, equity, and inclusion training.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time. Well, we're revisiting this, and I'm really worried, and I'm really scared because we're in a time in our history right now where we've made strides in that avenue, but it looks like we're running up against a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say that for everybody here, please, if you have to, if you can, put the hammer to your employer, put the hammer to where you work and your friends to please take part in this type of education. It's amazing what you learn from other cultures and other people when you have the exposure to them, and the fact that we are making a conscious effort not to do it. In fact, there's this whole mission going on right now to counteract all of that, and people are proud of it. They have websites saying, I made Molson Coors stop doing diversity work. I made Harley Davidson stop doing diversity work. We need to be just as loud on the other side to make that same message.
So as Ilan talked about, this was just a simple idea that we had at the beginning. It was just a discussion over brunch amongst friends, which now, at least for me, is a reflection of how words become reality. At least just even in a couple months that all of this has come together. So it's also hard to talk about this work without becoming so personal. The work is so personal because it's so important. We believe in this city, we believe in this town, we believe in the people that we brought together. Because we understand that it is in the places that we communicate, in the places where we come together and celebrate our biggest life moments and milestones that occur, that if we can get those places right, we can make it more inclusive, that we know that the rest of the community will follow. The rest of us will bring that out to places where we go to work, where we go to school, how we ultimately live. These discussions, the culinary conversation that we're having today, the 6 more meetings, workshops, events that we're having after this are all just the beginning, because as we practice through these events, we'll celebrate, we'll come together at the gala, we'll come together at the competition and everything else and say, look at what we've done. This is more than just events. This is more than just a fun opportunity to hear from our leaders and taste amazing food, but it is a movement. It's a coalition. You all came together because not only because you heard about how awesome all the people were that were actually going to be a part of this, but because you heard that there might be something special, and we're really grateful for that. I'm personally grateful for that. When Ilan and I were having a discussion just recently here about this event and the work that we're doing, it was at that time I received a pretty life-changing email that we all met Jinx already. But Jinx and I were in the adoption process, and for 20 months we're waiting for a match. And it was at that time talking about this that we learned that Thank you. Making sure that we are in a town where someone can thrive, being their full, authentic, and true self. Making sure that we're in a town that people can disagree,
safely and authentically is more important to me now than it's ever been before.
We're a community of people who believe in humanity. We don't need everybody. We just need you. You're in this room because you're that you. Don't look around you. You're you. You're the person who's supposed to be making that change. We invited you in this room today, not to be 100. We didn't open it to everybody. It was on purpose. We wanted to have in this room people who are thought leaders, people who are trendsetters, people who have in their heart humanity. I know you can. Love doesn't have a color, a shape, a height. Before I show up here, my daughter Naima asked me, Mom, those people that we call LGBT people, and I'm about to tear up. She said, Mom, they are people just like everybody else, right? So why do they have to fight for the most basic right, which is to belong? Why? Why did we have a son lost to a mother just because he was different? She asked her name not to be called, but she's praying for all of you to be here to hear that message. I'm just asking us to think about what we're all called to be, which is human, and respect all of our humanity, and just love. And that love doesn't have color, shape, size, height, anything. As long as we have a walking human out there on the street, they deserve your love. And they deserve your love.
And as we continue, each of us create ripples that may start small, but will grow and get bigger and impact the lives of others. And that's how the world changes. There are more interactive workshops to go leading up to the November Gala and food competition with decorated chefs from our Milwaukee community who make people feel good on the inside, as well as the Gala's fashion show dedicated to making people feel beautiful on the outside. So get your tickets today and be part of Flavors of Africa, where food is just the start and bringing people together is the world.